Before you hit the road for any vacation this summer, visit GNC. You need to stay healthy, and GNC has the highest quality solutions and supplements in the industry. GNC brand products pass up to 150 quality checks. You can be sure you're getting the best prices with GNC's price match guarantee. GNC doesn't just match prices, they beat them by $1. Or try something new. If it's not right for you, return it for a full refund. You heard it right, a full refund. This summer, live well with GNC. Exclusions apply. See an associate or GNC.com for details.
We're here for the fans, and we're here to compete against the best.
This is becoming as exciting as the home run derby.
This is going to change the balance of power in the National League. There was a social media uproar over offensive tweets that he posted when he was 17.
I'm deeply sorry for what I've said, and
that's one reason why I don't have social media.
That doesn't reflect on who I am as a person today.
Toronto has reached agreement to acquire Kawhi Leonard for a package that includes DeMar DeRozan.
This is a tremendous gamble for Toronto. Neither player is enthusiastic about being a part of this trade.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Bob Lee, and while you were sleeping in just about every time zone, it was falling into place, and it's firm now and shaking up a lot. And I mean a lot of opinion around the NBA. The Kawhi Leonard trade, a trade that neither principal apparently wants. Wednesday's obviously big story from the circumference of Studio Z. Where to begin? Before 5 a.m. Eastern time when our Adrian Wojnarowski and Chris Haynes were tweeting, the contours of the trade were in place. Essentially, Kawhi Leonard for Toronto's DeMar DeRozan. But there are so many open questions and threads to this story after Leonard's nearly full year in effective exile away from the Spurs, beginning with Chris Haynes reporting that Leonard does not want to go to Toronto, which becomes even more focused when DeRozan's Instagram includes his pithy review of his departure from Toronto. Quote, be told one thing, and outcome another. Can't trust him. Ain't no loyalty in this game. Sell you out quick for a little bit of nothing. This from the four-time Raptor All-Star, the all-time franchise leader in games, in points, in field goals, and free throws. In short, he is the franchise cornerstone. Traded for a guy entering his walk year, whose health was one of the major subplots of last year's NBA campaign. That was all happening while DeRozan was leading Toronto to the number one seed in the East. Here's the full trade now. Leonard and Danny Green to Toronto. DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a protected first-round pick going to San Antonio. And we're going to Windy World. Brian Windhorst is going to begin deconstructing this. Is anybody happy in this trade?
You know, Bob, we're going to have to wait probably a year or so to really know if there's a winner or loser here, because this is one of the more bizarre star trades I've seen in the last 15 years covering the NBA, because we don't know about Kawhi Leonard's health. That's a really important factor here. Is he going to be the same player he was 2 years ago when he may have been able to lead an upset of the Warriors in the playoffs? Or is he going to be diminished somewhat? Will he stay in Toronto? Will DeMar DeRozan be a good fit and continue the Spurs level of competitiveness? This is going to be one that's going to be difficult to call today. Yeah. What I will say is this. The Raptors got a really good discount here, and they leveraged this trade, and they got a way to find a way to accept this risk. And this could elevate them to the top team in the Eastern Conference. They are really good if Kawhi Leonard is himself.
Now, you talk about his health. You would think, though, the Raptors... certainly there was a physical involved, I would think, and it was a rigorous one. So you still think there may be a question here?
There hasn't been a physical yet.
No.
Kawhi Leonard has 48 hours, I believe, to report. But then he potentially could, have that extended. It's possible, Bob, that the Raptors would waive the physical here because they are really interested in just getting Kawhi on their roster, even if that means taking a gamble. That is the next layer of this trade. We think it's done. They had a conversation and cleared it with the league today. The teams put out press releases. Greg Popovich is having a press conference. But we're not 100% sure this is going to go through. But obviously the Raptors have had to vet this. They knew that there's a possibility that Kawhi may not show up right away.
All right, this is bizarro world, to say the least, Wendy. All right, it even gets stranger. Let's put up on the screen the goodbye relative tweets that the Spurs put out for Danny Green. In the same time, they were also saying thank you to Kawhi Leonard. And the conspiracy theorists on the internet, and Lord knows there are a few dozen of those out there on their sofa. And look at that big font for Danny Green. Look at that tiny little font for Kawhi Leonard. And Tom Haberstroh points out on Twitter that the official release from the Spurs omits Kawhi's Finals MVP, his All-Star appearances, Defensive Player of the Year, his 2014 ring. Everyone is saying, boy, the Spurs are just brushing him to the side.
Yeah, there's no love lost here. This was a really bad breakup. I think the Spurs handled this with some level of maturity. I've seen it go worse. Let's go back to 2010 with Dan Gilbert as being the Class A example of that. But this was no love lost here, not only between the Spurs and front office and Kawhi Leonard, but his own teammates. And that's why we all knew that this eventually was going to happen, whether it was going to happen today or in August or in September, that Kawhi and the Spurs were done. And this is not something that's happened in San Antonio before. They have been immune from this. And how they handle this is really going to affect them as a franchise. They have elected, Bob, to trade for a player who can help them maintain some level of competitiveness. They elected not to wait for prospect players. That is a bit of a controversial decision. Some other people in this situation would have gone for more younger players and more draft picks. So we'll see. This is not part of the Spurs book. They've written many chapters. There's a gospel out there. This is outside their normal operation.
So the book of intrigue is only in the second or third chapter, and we don't even know if there's, well, you say no physical. We're waiting to see, is it official? Well, yeah, we think so. Brian Windhorst, thanks as always. And now, going yard for the books.
They played the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby broke out. Again, the second night in a row.
All rise in D.C. It's got a chance, and that is gone.
Mike Trout, just stop it.
It was fun in the box, man. He's battling, I'm battling.
He has tied things up. Out of here.
This is becoming as exciting as the Home Run Derby.
And we are tied.
Let's go.
Back-to-back Astros homers. 6 straight wins.
The American League wins again.
Now, that record barrage of 10 All-Star home runs was the proper commemorative coin for the modern game of power baseball played in a hitter's ballpark. 10 dingers last night and 25 strikeouts, and even more selfies taken on the field. Part of the relaxed aura around this game. Great for marketing, but hardly a throwback to when these leagues had a visceral rivalry. And among the selfies now sitting up there on the cloud, Manny Machado of the Orioles, at least of the Orioles right now, taking a shot with Matt Kemp of the Dodgers. It was part of Machado's nationally televised presumed final game in an O's uniform before, presumably, being traded to the Dodgers. This hanging curveball of a trade was the hard news thread of the All-Star festivities.
Your uncle plays for the Baltimore Orioles. If it's not in the Orioles, what would you like to see your uncle?
Oh, which team? You pick.
Yankees.
Oh, the Yankees?
He picked the Yankees. Sorry, Pedro. That hurts you, Pedro.
That may not be happening. And even during the game, this exchange, which we have sanitized with J.D. Martinez in the dugout.
Manny, where you going, dog?
No one knows.
Doesn't know where he's going. So with the best player and arguably the worst team in the game about to snap shut his steamer trunk and head west, we turn to the land of the O's. Call in Tim Kirkchin. Rather surreal, almost like going to your own funeral there for Manny at the All-Star game.
Right. That was a bizarre night for Manny Machado, Bob, but it looks like from all indications that was the last time he's going to wear an Orioles uniform. They're still trying to work out this deal with the Dodgers, but it looks awfully close to being done. And this is something the Orioles have to do. They have to move on and redirect the franchise. And the Dodgers, if this goes through, pick up a shortstop that hits with power, plays the position above average defensively. They haven't won the World Series since 1988, and this is another sign that they're really going for it.
Yeah, and then, of course, what that means for the balance of that division, pressures on somebody else to then make another chess move.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the Diamondbacks are going against the Dodgers for the division title. The Brewers, who play the Dodgers this weekend, were in on Machado. The entire National League, Bob, has been up in the air the entire year. I can't figure out who the best team in the National League is. I don't think anybody knows that. But the Dodgers, if this goes through, just made a move that could make them the team to beat in the National League this year.
Tim, that's what October is for, finding the best team. All right, now let's talk about the best player in the game. It's Mike Trout. He turns 27 next month, and only Ty Cobb and Mickey Mantle had a better wins above replacement at this age. And the parlor game now is, how does baseball make an introverted, supernaturally talented superstar into a marketing magnet? Last month, MLB, very self-aware, Instagramming Trout's surreal numbers with the annotation, quote, "Just doing our best to market Mike Trout," smiley face. It's a topic that goes right to the top of the baseball pyramid, how to maximize the maximum player. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, listen to him say the Angel star is a reluctant salesman here.
I think Mike Trout could raise his profile tomorrow if he decided that he wanted to engage a little more fully, give up some more of his free time. And that's his choice. I mean, that really is his choice. What player marketing takes in today's world, you got to be willing to be out there on social media. You got to be willing to put yourself out there, and you have to devote time to it.
Now, during last night's telecast, Trout wore a microphone for Fox. He was chatting with Joe Buck and John Smoltz back on the booth. He even did a little weather work. It's his hobby. Listen here in the dugout.
Gonna have a little bit of rain. I don't think it's gonna get much harder than this. Shouldn't be much longer. Should be clear. But it's definitely cooling off the field.
Yeah, he was right about that. And afterwards, with Manfred's words hanging in the air, Trout was standing his ground.
I keep telling you guys, I do as much as I can, but it's a long baseball season. So I got to pick and choose when I want to do things and go from there.
Back with Tim Kirkland. It is rather curious. You got the man who runs this shooting match, the commissioner, almost reaching out and trying to drag him into the spotlight.
Right, and the commissioner's right. It has to start with the player, but I know Mike Trout pretty well, and he's just not comfortable being out in front all the time. He's not comfortable talking about himself, and even though he's got a lot to share, he's a funny guy who tells a good story and has interesting stories to tell. He's just not that way, and I think the best way to market the game for him is what he's doing right now. He goes out there every single day as the best player in the game. He always does and says the right thing. And for him, that has to be good enough. But for baseball, they'd like him to do more, but this is his choice. Yeah. And it's difficult to argue with his choice when he plays like this every day for the last 6.5 years.
It's been insane. The other topic is the discovery of Josh Hader's old tweets last night. Even during the game, 7-year-old tweets from Hader's account, many echoing rap lyrics employing the N-word. One tweet with expressing homophobic sentiment. These tweets came to light after the game. Hader apologized.
It was something that happened, when I was 17 years old, and as a child, I was immature, and I, obviously said some things that were inexcusable. That doesn't reflect on who I am as a person today, and that's just what it is. I'm ready for any consequences that happen for what happened 7 years ago.
Hader's teammate, fellow All-Star Lorenzo Cain, sympathizing with Hader's situation.
That's one reason why I don't have social media, because, for things like this, you always get in trouble for, things you said when you're younger. Even when we're 17, 18 years old. If we could follow each other around with a recorder every day, I'm sure we all said some dumb stuff.
And Tim Kirkland within the hour baseball saying that the immediate apology had some impact, but they're going to require sensitivity training for Mr. Hader, participation in MLB's diversity and inclusion initiatives. How did this spread among the press last night?
Well, it came out of nowhere, Bob, and I was chasing around home run hitters last night and the MVP of the game and everything else. But as soon as the game was over, it hit like a barrage here that what Josh Hader had said 7 years ago, and it's just another reminder that once you say something and then social media gets a hold of it, it can spread very quickly, and that's precisely what happened last night. At least Hader got in front of it and seemed contrite about the things that he had said.
Statements from both the Brewers and from MLB today. I'll have more on that coming up in the BLT later. Tim, always great to see you. Thanks. Next is the American soccer breeding machine, damaged and dangerous. Taylor Twellman, who should know, is going to be joining me live next.
I'm a squeaky toy, and I've got one job, getting chomped on by this little ankle sniffer. So pardon me for feeling inept compared to Geico, who does so much more. Like while I'm getting slobbered on, Geico is creating cool technology like their mobile app, which lets people pay their bills or file a claim. Plus, Geico is the fastest growing auto insurer for the last 10 years. Is it too much for me to ask for one more feature? Fast and friendly claim service like Geico, maybe? Oh, great. I'm getting buried again.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
More stuff that matters now. Marc Gasol of the Memphis Grizzlies, part of a different team this offseason. The Spanish center tweeting this picture of he and other members of Proactiva Open Arms rescuing an African woman off the coast of Libya. She had been clinging to a lifeboat in the Mediterranean. That organization aids refugees fleeing war and poverty. Fernando Rodney of the Twins spent his All-Star break becoming a United States citizen. Congratulations. Born in the Dominican, got his certificate on Monday in Miami after leaving Sunday's game after the fifth inning to catch a flight to the hearing. Rodney, the active leader in saves, has been in the United States for 19 years. Today in the B Block, American youth soccer. Is it broken and is it hemorrhaging participants? Youth soccer numbers are down over the past 3 years by 14%, more than any other sport, more than 500,000 fewer participants. And that's startling enough in the wake of a World Cup, which, as we seem to know, did not include the United States. But a current piece of reporting in The Atlantic suggests that the American model of having youngsters pay to play at elite levels of developmental soccer is not helpful to younger players. Taylor Twellman knows this better than anybody, the world of developmental soccer. Let me ask you about this specialization and the cry that both psychologically and physically it could damage kids. What do you think?
Bob, I kind of agree with it. I mean, a lot has changed since, obviously, I was playing in youth soccer. And what I hear from parents running a concussion foundation, but also running a couple camps, is that the in-between from the travel elite development academies to then the parochial town soccer, that's diminishing. So now what we're telling kids from 9 to 14, that if you're not good enough for travel soccer, then there's really no place for you. The other aspect of this is you're putting kids in some real serious situations at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 that I think is detrimental to them as human beings. And I'm going to use the French World Cup champion roster for an example. N'Golo Kanté was their center midfielder and arguably the best, most influential player on their roster in this World Cup. When you think about in 2010, that was 8 years ago, Bob, he was playing in the 9th division. The reality is N'Golo Kanté in our country would have been told he's not good enough. And then where would he have gone? He would have fallen to the wayside. I think this is a real discussion point for a lot of families, parents, but also for the United States Soccer Federation, because if pay to play doesn't exist, they'll say, well, there's nowhere to play. My argument is, well, if Development Academy is at the top, well, then what's in between? We can't tell 9 to 14-year-olds that they're not good enough.
Do you
when,
think
quite honestly, they don't even have any idea what they're going to be?
Do you think the pay-to-play model, which was a major issue in changing the leadership of the U.S. Federation at the recent elections earlier this year, you think that pay-to-play model explains to some large extent losing 600,000 kids? We make a deal about football's participation numbers going down over concerns about injury. Yeah. More than 500,000 over 3 years. That's an anvil off a cliff for soccer.
No doubt about it, Bob. And you're hitting the nail on the head. And that's what I mean by that gap. So now if you don't play Development Academy or travel soccer, and on average that's $2,500, some are $5,500 when you include hotels and travel and cars and all that. Well, now the answer for parents is, well, wait a minute, if they're not good enough for that, then there's no other option. So now there is no. So pay to play is a huge problem for this. And a big reason is locally here in Boston, Massachusetts, I'm hearing a lot of towns in these smaller level teams are now having to combine or go to way because the parents are either going to Development Academy or they're quitting. The other thing, Bob, real quick, it's a society issue. When you and I grew up, we'd leave the house and mom and dad say, come back before dark. No one's doing that anymore. Everything is so structured.
Well, that's exactly my point.
There's no creativity, and kids aren't doing it.
Let me ask you about this, because yes, the Germans can prove that, and they have proved nationally, you can structure a winning national soccer program. But you and I have traveled the world often together, and we've seen, and I think we share the belief, until you see kids playing soccer organically because they want to and not driven to games by their parents, the United States is not going to develop a lot of elite talent.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You can't develop robots. And I'm a huge part of this is creativity and personality. And you see this with the Belgiums of the world. And you see that with Germany and all those teams. It is a culture question. You need to have kids playing all day, but they don't need to be playing with a coach, a parent, cones, and organized on a field all day long. Until we don't get that.
And you see what it's done for the sport of basketball in this country. Yeah, and by the way,
yes.
when I grew up, I had to dodge the dinosaurs as I left the house as well. Taylor Twellman.
Yeah,
always,
good point.
Yeah, it's always great to see you. Thanks so much. Next, should there be a statute of limitations on stupid, youthful idiocy?
Before you hit the road for any vacation this summer, visit GNC. You need to stay healthy, and GNC has the highest quality solutions and supplements in the industry. GNC brand products pass up to 150 quality checks. You can be sure you're getting the best prices with GNC's price match guarantee. GNC doesn't just match prices, they beat them by $1. Or try something new. If it's not right for you, return it for a full refund. You heard it right, a full refund. This summer, live well with GNC. Exclusions apply. See an associate or GNC.com for details.
Danica Patrick hosting the ESPYs tonight, 8 Eastern on ABC. It's also streaming live on the app. Sports Center at 6 Eastern, Sage and Kevin. It's ESPY night. They're on the red carpet, talking to all the celebrities, and Sports Center at the red carpet, 6 Eastern, also on the app. This just in. Twitter is dangerous and Twitter is revelatory. When this video of Ole Miss lineman Laramie Tunsil getting high surfaced on Twitter just before the 2016 NFL Draft, Tunsil plummeted down the draft board, costing himself some serious coin. On the eve of this year's NFL Draft, some of Josh Allen's old tweets surfaced in which he invoked racist words. Allen was 15 years old at the time of those tweets. He had actually deleted them, but digital means forever, and Allen went into full damage control mode, even phoning my colleague Stephen A. Smith at 2 a.m. to apologize for those tweets that were made 6 or 7 years earlier. Now, the Bills eventually drafted Allen 7th. The team said they had vetted the quarterback, and this whole deal, that was something Allen would have to address with his teammates going forward. The unlikely star of April's championship team from Villanova, Dante DiVincenzo, even as the confetti was falling, saw a long-ago tweet on his account come to the surface. It was from 2011. He was 14. DiVincenzo's tweet included a lyric in a Meek Mill song, and yes, it included the N-word. DiVincenzo said he had no recollection of the tweet. He deleted it. And he was drafted 17th last month by the Milwaukee Bucks, and by then the issue, if there had been one, had receded. But the clear and overarching lesson, time and again, digital media lives forever. You cannot delete it. Twitter is a sharp and dangerous tool. And so last night, even as the Brewers' Josh Hader was struggling through his all-star outing, the vetting by the sofa-bound digital detectives had turned up a series of old Hader tweets. These from 7 years ago, many of the tweets echoing, and I am not the authority on this, trust me, echoing lyrics from Juicy J and Tyga. He uses the N-word. Hader was 17 at the time. And there was also one flat-out homophobic tweet. Last night, there was almost a ritual feeling of expediency to Hader's post-game apology and the efficiency with which folks materialized in the stands to provide generic jerseys to his family who were wearing Hader's personalized all-star jersey. Yet more proof that digital means forever. Josh Hader's case firmly rides the third rail of American society, race. The argument that there should be a statute of limitations on youthful, stupid behavior collides with the reality that the ER iteration of that word is far more toxic than the lyrical AH version. And despite the fact that word is on many a playlist, in 2018 America, the fact is uttering or writing any version of that word is not a universal right. That may not be logical, but it is a reality. Here is some real logic. If your life, if your career is about to catapult you into the public arena, delete your old tweets. And better yet, as my buddy Herm Edwards would say, don't press send to begin with. Knicks is next. Wendy is by. It's 50 days to open day in the National Football League. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern here in Studio Z, outside the lines.